Good afternoon. Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And this afternoon on Cool Your Heels with Lillian, our special guest is Jack Grace, who started a mortgage lender company called HomePromise Heroes, and it's specifically for veterans who require mortgages, financial assistance to buy their homes. But Jack takes it one step further. So good afternoon, Jack. How are you this beautiful rainy day?
Doing great, Lillian. Thanks for having me on. Actually, the company name is HomePromise Corporation. We're a VA lender, yes. And our mini-series or documentary series is called HomePromise Heroes.
Oh, great. So could you please give them a little background about you and why you're putting together a documentary series concerning veterans?
Sure. As a VA lender, we have the great pleasure of serving many veterans, and in some cases, we're working with disabled veterans who have some pretty challenging stories and histories, and we kind of in the process of doing mortgages with veterans, we just have heard so many great stories about sacrifice and dedication and honor and valor from veterans. So we decided to set up a documentary that allows veterans to tell their stories in their own words about their service, the struggles they've had after their service, and create an environment where veterans can really be authentic about what's going on in their lives and how they have served the country and some of the challenges afterward, and how they found some solutions and some pathways forward in life and been very successful. In some cases, these guys have amazing stories of thriving and doing well. But we really have such a great opportunity to interact with the best among us. Veterans are just amazing people, and we wanted to thank them and appreciate them through this series. And we just kicked off this week on July 4th.
Terrific. Now, why is it so important for our nation and any other nation who have young men and go out to serve their country, and then they come back and they face sometimes apathy from the very nation that they have sworn to protect?
Yeah. Well, that's heartbreaking when we hear that. So we believe very strongly that the role of our volunteer military members is of vital importance to our country, and the time that they serve is precious to us all, and we have to support them. We have to highlight their service, and that's it's not a nice to have, it's a must have in my view, and we're just delighted to be able to do it and play that role in caring for these guys and thanking them for their service.
And I think to people, citizens of our country and other countries, must recognize that these gentlemen and ladies have set themselves aside to protect their country without anybody going after them and enforcing that they enter the military ranks and protect their country. They just do it. And I think people have to recognize that this is a different set of breed than the ordinary citizen who just chooses to get married and stay home and go to a job and work and maybe raise a family or even take care of their parents or their loved ones. It's just a different type of mental set, and that we as citizens need to appreciate their specialized mental set to go ahead and do this.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned about other countries. There are still across the globe countries that have mandatory military service. And ours is an all-volunteer force. And we, as I said, have had instances where we've done loans for disabled veterans, and these are folks who may have served in special forces and spent years and years doing high risk activities that have just battered their bodies. And we talk about NFL players going through a career of a few years or 5 or 10 or 15 years and being disabled. These folks making in the military way less are sometimes as battered as an NFL lineman because of their service. And it is impressive to see them thrive and move on from their service. But they need to be thanked, and they need to be appreciated, and they need to be lifted up as the best among us. And so that was really, as a VA lender, that was our goal, is to really give back and talk about these folks who are forgotten. They've got a small monthly disability payment that many of them live on for having served faithfully and done it at great cost. So that's what we're about. That's what we're trying to highlight.
Now, for people who are veterans and they want to know how to go about getting a mortgage so they could buy a house or so they can rent an apartment or something in which money is required, could you share with them what your company will do for them? Because I know that a lot of veterans tend to stay away from organizations that lend money because they're afraid they're not going to have enough money earned to pay off the loan and the interest for that particular purchase.
Sure. No, great question. The VA loan program is a great benefit for veterans. The veterans earn their VA home loan benefits as a result of their service. So it's unique among loan programs. You would never be able to say that you've earned a right to any other kind of loan program if you didn't serve in the military. So that's one thing that I think is unique. And as a result, the VA lending guidelines that we use are broad and are able to serve many veterans in many different situations. One of the characteristics of the VA loan program is that you can purchase a home with no down payment, which we've had veterans be able to acquire a home with very limited amounts of money in the bank, but the income to support it. That's a great benefit within the VA loan program. Another big benefit within the VA program is the underwriting flexibility that the VA wants lenders to apply to the review of loan files. Being more flexible with debt-to-income ratios, meaning how much debt you have for the amount of income you have. Being more flexible about credit. Being more flexible about the home if the home has some unique characteristics. These are all things that VA expects lenders to use in maximizing the benefit of VA home loans for veterans. The problem is that there are many lenders in America who apply guidelines on top of the VA guidelines and tighten them down and make them less capable and more restrictive, so that in some cases veterans get turned down, and then they'll call us and we can approve them because we're able to use, and we have a policy of using the VA lending guidelines to the fullest extent that we possibly can. So that's sort of philosophically kind of how we approach the lending process with veterans. And right now our rates are incredibly low. There's great opportunities to refinance and purchase a home at low cost. And so we love serving veterans and using the guidelines the VA has provided to the fullest extent possible. But not all VA lenders are created equal. Oddly enough, you can get turned down by one lender, and it happens all the time with us. Many times we'll get a call from a veteran saying, you know, this huge national bank couldn't help, and we're able to help them. So that's our that's a unique part of how we not only serve veterans through the program, but do it in a unique way that's different from a lot of other lenders.
Now, when the veteran comes to apply, do they need to bring an honorable discharge with them? Do they need to bring any paperwork with them about their service to the country? So let people know about that, too, because I know sometimes they have one but they don't have the other, or they don't have the discharge papers, and I know that this is one of the ways that you can prove and say you are who you are.
It's a great question, and it's a confusing area for veterans. One of the ways that the process can get very complicated is that when you exit the military, you get a discharge document. Within the industry, it's referred to as the DD-214. It's a Certificate of Release or Discharge from Active Duty. We've heard that the members of the military who exit the military, they're told, hey, keep this form, but invariably it gets lost over the passage of years. You know, we have people who apply with us who've served, 50 years ago, and they don't have their DD-214. The DD-214 is useful and powerful because it shows how long you served, because there are minimum time periods depending on when you served. It's kind of a matrix that the VA applies to determine whether you're eligible, and then shows the character of your discharge, that it was honorable, and so forth. So key document is a DD-214. Most of the time, if you've had a VA loan recently or had one 5, 10, 15 years ago, we're able to pull up your certificate of eligibility electronically straight from the VA website. But if you haven't had a VA loan before, the DD-214 is often a very critical document to getting it. And oddly enough, with COVID-19, if someone doesn't have it, we go to the military records facilities. There's a different facility potentially for each branch of the service. Then we try and acquire that DD-214 from them. It might take a month or two. But I can tell you with COVID-19, all of that is, we've been told some of those facilities are shut down. That may not be the case anymore, but last time we checked in June of last month, they said, the records services are not open, or at least for some of the branches of the military. So it can be a complicated process if you don't have the DD-214, but we work hard to navigate the complexity of that and find solutions to the fullest extent we can. And we've had veterans who've come to us and unable to get their records, and we find ways to do it. So it's a complicated process potentially, but if you have the DD-214, it moves really nicely. And if you've served in the reserves or National Guard, you have to have served for 6 years unless you were called up to active duty. And you have to have reserve points, as they say, meaning that you served and did the minimum activities of a National Guard member or reservist over that time period. And then you'll get an NGB-22, which is the discharge document for those branches of the military. So that's kind of the mechanics of how that works. And then, you bring in other documents to us, your pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements. We run your credit report, and then counseling and guide you through the process and get it moving. So that's sort of the mechanics of the process.
Now, if a person has a medical discharge, or maybe some bomb exploded and rendered them where their wife or parent becomes their power of attorney or guardian, but they still got discharged honorably, can that family member go in with their discharge and apply for a VA loan?
Wow, that's a complicated question. Okay, so let's look at a couple ideas that come to mind as I think about that scenario. So first of all, if someone has been discharged because of medical issue, disability, or they developed it later, one of the big, huge benefits is that veteran doesn't have to pay a funding fee. Now, funding fee varies, can be, 2 to 3.5% of the loan amount, basically. So on a $200,000 loan, using 2% as a thumbnail, that's a $6,000 fee that the VA charges to do that loan. It goes entirely to the VA. The lender doesn't keep it. So did I say 6,000? I meant 4,000.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the VA doesn't keep that, or the lender doesn't keep that. It has to go to the VA. And if you're a disabled veteran, that number is 0. So you don't pay a penny to the VA in the form of what's called a funding fee, and that you're completely exempt from that, which is a huge benefit, especially as the loan amount gets larger and the VA funding fee is higher the second time you apply for the second time you acquire a VA loan. The VA funding fee is over 3%. So, if you're talking about a $500,000 loan, that's a big number. So,
yeah.
We're talking over $15,000 as a funding fee. So, it's great if you're a disabled veteran to be able to not have to have that. So, let's talk about a situation where a veteran is disabled and they have someone who is acting as a power of attorney and managing their affairs. Those loans are complicated because they have to go to the VA, and the VA has to go through a determination as to whether it's in the best interest of the veteran. And we've navigated those. We do those. Some lenders shy away from them because of the complexity, but those are totally possible. We've done a bunch of them. They're not super common because obviously the veteran has to be at a stage in their disability where they need someone to act as that sort of guardian or caretaker. And getting to that stage involves a process as well, and paperwork and so forth. So, but those are loans that can be done, and we love doing them and helping veterans who are in that situation.
So is the same applicable to maybe a woman or a man if their wife is killed on duty? Could they forcibly maybe take a veteran's loan out to get a house or to keep themselves from being refinance their home so they don't get thrown out because their a breadwinner has been dying on the job?
That's a great question as well. So VA has a feature in the program that permits a surviving spouse of a veteran under certain circumstances to be able to use the veteran's home loan benefits and apply for a loan based on the veteran's service. And that surviving spouse eligibility is based on, the circumstances surrounding the death of the veteran, whether they were shown to have been suffering from and have passed from the nature of their service and things that happen within their service. So that is a possibility. We have certainly done a bunch of those loans as well. They're called surviving spouse VA loans. Definitely challenging process as well, but we know how to navigate it and get those to the closing table.
Good. So people, listen up. If you have a spouse who has passed, whether they passed while they were doing their service inside the military they passed once they were honorably discharged, you don't have to land up on the street. And I don't know how many of you survivors know about that, but if you don't, now you do. Because there are a lot of things concerning veterans that are not known by the public for whatever the reason. And you should be aware of these opportunities so that you can take care of your family. And it would also give peace of mind for the person who's involved in the military. Now let's talk a little about your documentary. You're going and approaching people in the special forces to talk about their stories. How does somebody get on your list to be approached?
Great question. We've got a number of individuals who have served that we are talking to and have interviewed already. The first 2 interviews are done. The first of the series was released on the 4th. We'll be releasing them throughout July and into August. And we're doing a big push over the next couple weeks, doing a cross-country travel tour to interview more veterans, including heading from the East Coast over to San Diego. And a bunch of veterans in the San Diego area we're going to be interviewing later in July. If veterans have an interest in participating and telling their stories, first of all, I would come to our website, call the number on the site. It's HomePromise.com. Go to our Contact Us, submit a request there, and we will be delighted to talk with you about that. The very first participant is a gentleman named Stephen Kuhn, and his interview is just gripping. It's just a tremendous account of his service and the challenges he had and how he overcame them and the struggles he had when he exited the military. A lot of the folks who have served that we talk to have some kind of internal struggles. They may not actually have, any physical disability, but they're carrying with them some of the struggles of their service, and it's some of that hidden internal struggles from what they saw, experienced, the harrowing and challenging environments they had to enter and things they had to do. We're telling the story from the perspective of some of these gentlemen, and you really have to see some of these videos. They're just gripping. Really, really great opportunities for these guys to share what it's really like to serve their country.
Now, these veterans who you're approaching, they can be either from the recent wars that are going on, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Gulf War, and I suspect they can go all the way back, to World War II? Oh,
sure. Yeah. We would be delighted to serve some of the older veterans. The current group is all from Persian Gulf and after, but there may be some additional ones that we're actively talking with folks who want to tell their stories. So I don't know the whole list right now, but we would be delighted to have some of the older veterans from earlier conflicts as well.
And if you're a lady and you have served, whether in the Marines or in the Navy or the National Guard or the Air Force, please step forward and go over to the site HomePromise.com and sign up, because we would love that. Women need to be heard as well, especially the ones who broke through the prevailing order that women could be in the background, but they're not going to be on the front line. Well, they're now on the front line, and they're now taking positions and leadership roles in which they are handling the lives of many men and many women. And your stories are very important, because future ladies who may wish to go into the Space Force need to hear what it's really like in the front line, not the myths and the colorful storytelling that drifts back after a while. the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Clint Eastwood would say, because you need to be prepared and how to handle everything that goes on. So is there anything additional, Jack, that we haven't discussed that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, we would encourage folks to who are interested to subscribe to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel to continue to gain access to the videos and the documentary as it continues. And just call us or hit our website, and we'd love to serve any veterans with VA mortgages.
Please give the name of your company again.
Sure. It's HomePromise Corporation, homepromise.com, and we'd be delighted to help.
Terrific. Well, thank you, everyone, and adults of all ages, listening to Cool Your Heels with Lillian. Interview Jack Grace from HomePromise.com, which is a mortgage company for veterans only. And you can hear this interview all over again at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Right-hand side of the page menu, scroll down, Cool Your Heels, click, hear the interview. You also have what we call a sizzle page for those who are technologically challenged. Just put in the phone number and you get to listen to the broadcast. You can also hear it on amfm247.com/Lillian Cauldwell, Tuesday evenings from 8 to 9 p.m. Also on iTunes, iHeart, Twitter.com/PWR Network, Facebook.com/Lillian Cauldwell 35, LinkedIn.com/Lillian Cauldwell, and Spreaker and Google and Amazon Alexa, and a variety of podcast directories. And before you go away and stray, the Marquis of Halifax had this to say: in the late 17th century, a man's interest is not a sufficient ground to suspect him if his nature doth not concur in it. Thank you all very much for listening, and remember, please stay safe.